In the last year, 2021 wasn't showing signs of pandemic recovery. So, people decided to choose online as a medium to get their things done, from taking classes to training sessions. In one of our episodes, we told you about an initiative that was created at the time of pandemic. But what we did not tell you was the exact things that this tribe is providing to people. If you have been thinking about creating a course and sharing your knowledge with learners, I have with me an initiator who helps people convert their knowledge into assets, that is, a course, in a well known community that is known as the Tribes of Women. First of all, I would like to welcome you, Dr. Anita Raja, for taking out time and joining us for a brand new episode of the Changemakers of Mentogram.
Thank you. Thank you, Prateeksha.
You're welcome. To start off, let's get to know about Dr. Anita Raja first and how did you get into Tribes of Women?
Well, it's quite simple. Tribes of Women is run, at least initiated by my friend Shobha Managoli, whom I've known for the last almost 30 years. We were together in Nimhans, and last year, during the peak of the COVID, she reached out saying we have an initiative for women, especially those who wish to kind of share on a platform which is unjudgmental, non-judgmental, very accepting, and they just want to share. They just want to come together and really share experience. So sharing was the main reason why this whole community came together, and it was very beautiful the way it evolved, because we had people who came in certain occasions, didn't come on certain others, but there's a very united spirit amongst all of them, I would say. And despite the fact that I didn't know most of them, they really welcomed me to their fold. So that's how I entered Tribes of Women, and I've been there since.
Okay, that's lovely. So basically, Tribes of Women, I have told my audience before that Tribes of Women is all about sharing, caring, and everything positive, where people don't have to feel judgmental. Like we also had on our show Miss Nandini, and she shared her journey, how she was like facing this post pandemic issues with herself, the post COVID that she got, and how she joined Tribes of Women and how beautiful it turned out for her. So, talking about you, you are a psychologist and you are creating a course in Tribes of Women. So, how easy has it been for you to turn an idea into course creation? Is it somehow related to psychology?
Well, not really. I think psychology, the background which I come from, has been more of a practicing background. I sit in my clinic or I go to schools. We have clients. We don't really necessarily design courses. Exposure to design came in my last assignment with an organization called Pyramid Foundation for Education Leadership, where we had to design courses. We were actually kind of given the experience of designing courses. And that was a new experience for me, because moving from a therapy clinical angle to an academic one, or at least some kind of an academic one, was not very comfortable process, but definitely a learning one. And that's where I really picked up how to convert an idea into a course. Having said that, in Tribes of Women, what we also saw was that there were plenty of women who had a lot of exposure in different fields, different backgrounds. They came with life stories which were meant to be shared, but the format of the stories, some of the experiences, the skills that they had to be put in a format which people understood. So, for example, if I know, let us say, quilt making, and I'm really good at it, how do I enable somebody else to learn the same? Or let's say I know how to actually just make a presentation on Canva, which perhaps, for a lot of us was a new experience, because you didn't know what Canva was. So how do you really put it together in a format which other people also understand? And that was something that really caught on, because as we were listening to different stories and listening to how beautifully they were emerging, we also wanted to see how we could enable other and larger groups of women to get access to the same experiences. And that's how the idea of course creation actually came into being. So today we have at least 2 courses that are being designed and almost finalized. One is called Reclaim, which is for educators. I think Nandini would have told you about that.
Yeah.
And
She
the other
did
one
tell me.
is okay, and the other one is about a senior lady who actually has a lot of experience in the field of beauty and makeup and all that, and how to actually teach women through her course. What are little tips that you can all follow and really get better. So these are the small things, that somebody that who's picked up a skill either organically or through a deliberate learning process, how to transfer that skill onto somebody else and also enable a learning process which others can then pick up from. So that's where the idea came, and we've been working at it, trying to get the right mix of not just the experience but the formatting, and also making it as interesting as possible. So at least 80% of women who access these courses really feel much more empowered by going through them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. 80% is actually, like, if we talk about a huge number, then 80% is something that people, if at least those number of people are being helped, and if they are ready to convert their ideas into assets, and like what we say, course creation. So that is something that can help everyone, like because there are a lot of people who actually do not know that they have something in their mind, this little idea that they have, they can convert it into course and use it for their own benefit. So they have been telling this thing to people and not trying to create it into an asset that you can have you can have certain benefits with it. Along with that, people can benefit with it, and what you get in return is the goodwill, the name, and all the positive credits. Okay, so we talked about tribes of women, like how you have been helping people in tribes of women. So let's take you back in time, the time where tribes of women did not exist, the time where you were not a part of this, you were maybe a student. So, since you have an experience of 3 decades, and that's quite long, so how did your career start? Because what I feel is it was not an easy task for girls during those times. If we talk about 30 years, like such, so being a PhD holder from that time, that period of time, is something that needs to be applauded. So, how was your journey? How did everything start with?
We can always look back on a journey and see what challenges we overcame, or what blessings we received along the way. Because I'm sure it is never one person's effort; it's always a collective effort. And though we might have felt a challenge at some time, I think a lot of people contributed. I agree with you. We are not expected to really, at least a lot of us in middle class households, were not expected to actually seriously have a career. That's the first thing, unless you are in very straightforward professions like medicine or engineering or something. But beyond that, psychology, I mean, the first question is, what do you do with psychology? And then there's the usual question, oh, can you read my mind? Which I again face even now today. And I wonder why people sometimes ask that question at all. And it's not that we are X-ray machines or CT scanners or something going around looking at people's minds. And why would I want? I'm not interested. So second thing is, so one is the woman part of it. The other part is a lack of probably clarity around the subject itself. And the third was the fact that, in terms of careers, what is the outcome really of studying this? What do you really do? And that is true for a lot of professions, not just psychology. So putting all these things together, why did I enter? I don't know. I mean, I didn't get into medicine, so I had fairly decent marks, but that was a time when caste system was pretty high. So I got to the next best available course that happened to be psychology in a good women's college. So that's how it started. But once I got in, I think other people saw the value in it, and I really enjoyed the discussions we had, the kind of learning approaches we had in college. And so I was quite determined, if I've started this, I'll kind of take it through its end. And so each step was a learning process for me. My PhD I picked up much later. It was not even close to where even not your age. I probably started
Okay.
at 40. Yeah. It was an afterthought, because MPhil I finished by about 25. And then because of marriage and my child, the career was more along the clinical line rather than an academic line. Until I realized that unless I have some expertise in a particular area, I couldn't really call myself a consultant. And to be sitting in a hospital without the highest possible degree was not really a good thing, at least in my mind. So a little bit of a competitive spirit, because to be called a doctor is always, a little bit of a proud moment.
Yeah.
And especially being in a male-dominated field where doctors kind of walk around as the highest authority. It's also good to have a PhD in whatever you've done, and that you carry your own expertise there. So I think that gravitas comes from learning or reaching a particular point, and that helped. The Fulbright scholarship also helped because again I got it at 40 years. Like I said, my dream book was open. I put it as, I think the one line which got me the fellowship was, I dared to dream at 40. So I think that way back in 14 years ago, that was probably something which helped, because I had a lot of experience, but I had no degree. I mean, I was pursuing a PhD by then. So a lot of things helped. My family was very supportive. My daughter, my husband, my parents, my in-laws, a lot of friends also came together. So that was a journey. Of course, from there I moved on. I transitioned from the clinical role to a little bit of a job. I never worked earlier. The Prebble Foundation was a huge 8-year thing learning for me. I worked in a school, and today I have a business in health also. So it's a multiple kind of, a lot of things on my plate, like a buffet. So today I'm learning to pick and choose what I'm interested in, and definitely Tribes of Women is one of them.
That's so lovely. Maybe you were meant for psychology. That was something your because I'm the kind of person who believes into destiny. So maybe it was your destiny to be into psychology and then help people, and you were so much into having a doctor's degree that people call you a doctor in the male dominating society. Of course, the times have changed and women are being equal to men these days, but yeah, like I already said, you have studied at a time when it was so difficult for people to at least get their graduation, especially when they were a girl, when they were women, and they were married off at an early age. And I don't know what was your story in that aspect, but when it comes to study, I actually feel like, yeah, that you were quite fortunate enough, and you were also someone who worked hard for all this. Okay, so okay, other than all this thing, would you like to say something about your life, something about your journey that you feel like people should know about you? Like, we have been talking about Tribes of Women and how you have been helping people, but other than all this, something that you would like to share with people.
Thank you so much, Pratiksha, for all those kind words. I don't think that was in my head at that time. We just kind of travel along without really thinking too much about the process. I think one thing I would say, it's a kind of crusade also, is the fact that, I do want to make psychology services, especially mental health services, really, really affordable, accessible, and available for people. And for me, the model of sitting in a clinic and seeing people was never the model for India. India is not a country which can afford that, and it's been my effort all along to take psychology out of the clinic and into more available spaces. So I think intuitively I kind of chose those kind of professions, or even I would say workspaces, which enable that. One, of course, in course creation, I kind of fought for getting an MPhil in a hospital, in a super specialty hospital, which didn't really have a space for an independent department of clinical psychology. So that I consider a huge leap forward, because it's not everywhere an independent department functioning when you don't have to report to any doctors. You are really independent. That's one thing. The second thing was the fact that my effort has always been to make these courses available in schools, because I truly believe that children should not be coming to clinics. They can be managed at home, they can be managed in schools, provided parents and the ecosystem in the school has those skills and facilities available to make the child as enable the child to have an as enjoyable a school life as possible. Whereas today what you see is a lot of stress related to school, and children will look back on school life to say, I never really enjoyed this part, I never really enjoyed that part. Whereas I'm sure school can be made much more fun, learning can be fun also, and so much of the stress can be taken away if people know the right skills. So that's the other part. So the prevention aspect has always attracted me. And third part is the affordability. I mean, how many, when you see children improving, I say the child because it's always, the child is the most dependent person. And the child is dependent on the adult around him or her to actually get the services available. So to bring a child to a clinic, the parent also is in pain. He or she has to take time off, either from home or from his job, enable the money, the resources, and the effort required to kind of keep the child, keep the improvement going. So that was always the gap I felt, and I think we as professionals should be finding a way. And I think that's where spaces like Tribes of Women and Pyramid Foundation, all that really opened my eyes to the possibilities of what we could do. Because if Tribes of Women is offering a free space, a space where women could just come and share freely, Imagine how many people have been benefited without actually looking at the monetary part of it. Similarly, if you would have courses available which are affordable, which anybody can tap into, and you learn a couple of skills through that. What if I can learn how to manage anger in my child, or how to help an adult in distress, or let us say even something as simple as how to manage my money, or let's say keep fit at 40, anything. Or for example, look at how young people can be helped, because so much of distress in youngsters today. What if an adult has all these skills? So that those are the reasons why I think, and I think intuitively that's been my kind of journey. I didn't really plan, but I think sometimes if your heart is in it, the way will open for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so you did not plan for it, but it happened so randomly and so beautifully. So, you already told me about helping people and how this entire community has been helping people convert their ideas into assets. And of course, the examples that you gave me, because the everyday things that we have been doing is a part of a course that can be turned into a course. All you need to have is have that beauty, or have that what we say helping hand to help you with convert it into a course. So if I was to ask you, how far have you reached in helping people? I know you have already told me that you have been how this community has been helping people, but if I was to ask you, um, like something like to praise your own self, so how would you say that how far have you reached in helping people and converting their ideas into long term assets?
See, we are still in the brainstorming stage and the conversion of ideas into some kind of formatting. The methodology is being evolved, because, like I said, it's not difficult to put together a course, but the course should be appealing for all. Let's say we're looking at a category of women who may or may not be educated up to a particular level, or who may or may not be fluent in English, or who may or may not be having computer literacy to the extent that it's so. You're going to make a course so simple, available, accessible, affordable, that it really takes a lot of breaking down of the course or the material into its minutest parts and see really what we can do. So, for example, if I'm saying a course on beauty, how to put on makeup, when you put it that way, it's instinctively, I think everybody knows. But then, if you have to really break it down into what to do first, what to do next, what to take care of, what not to take care of, or for example, for a teacher to learn the skills of, relearn the skills of how to look at practical examples without a lab, for example, or how to do a
Yeah.
kitchen garden in the school. It's not as simple as just putting out some PPTs and putting together some material and putting some references here and then a chapter out of it. That won't work. You get put off just by the sheer verbosity, just by the number of words, just by the number of figures. I think it has to be really broken down. Even the imagery, even the flow of ideas. What is the outcome you're expecting? So if I do a course in let us say kitchen garden in the school, what do I get out of it? Is it only a kitchen garden, or what are the skills the teachers? So there's a lot of brainstorming around what a course should actually deliver. The second thing is, I think, what is it you learner really take away? So in this case, the learner is not your average 25-year-old, not your Pratikshas. It's always a 40-year-old housewife, perhaps, or maybe the 50-year-old grandmom, or perhaps even the 70-year-old who still has a zest for life and wants to learn. So you have a diverse range of adult learners. It requires a lot of really sitting down and looking at what we are going to offer, because ultimately when Tribes of Women comes out with a course, it has to reflect that ethos of Tribes of Women, isn't it? It's not just something that any course you can pick up from either IGNOU or somewhere. It has to reflect what we stand for. And so I think apart from the course, there's also that branding of Tribes of Women which goes along with it. That is important, because that has to deliver value to the lady who actually goes through it, and hopefully the family around her.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, that it's not that easy, but when that thing actually comes out, it looks like you people make it so simple, look so simple, that it looks like, okay, this was something what we say in Hindi, to halwa banana jitna easy tha. So it might sound like that, but it's not that easy, to be honest. You have to put a lot of efforts, to a lot of research, because there are times when maybe you did a lot of work on that, but it was not appealing to the audience, so the audience is not going to love it. So you have to look at all the aspects and give your best so that people appreciate it and appreciate the hard work that you have been doing.
It's not just that. I think it's also four professionals coming together who are doing this in their spare time. Tribal women is a labor of love. It's a very important part of what we do, but not the main thing. So therefore, to come out of what we do in our daily lives, to come together and then sit down and create a course, that also calls for a lot of detaching, reattaching, refocusing. So yeah, that's a challenge sometimes because each one has their own personal challenges also. So sometimes just coming together to discuss and now with everything opening up, earlier it was easier because it's all online, so you could just fix the time and come. Today
Yeah.
things have opened up, so you have your commitments outside, then you have your other stuff, so that's it. Yeah, but it'll come. I'm very confident about that.
Yeah. Okay, so what I see from this entire conversation that all your life you have been doing multiple things. You have been into psychology, you have been creating assets like course creation, and you have been helping people. So, if I was to ask you, what is that one thing? I know that one thing could be very difficult for you to answer because it's a single thing. So, if I was to ask you something like that, so what do you love the most about all this or about your life and the work that you've been doing?
I think it's a people. It's always people because though there are challenges, I think the fact that it's always a person whom I can connect to, and that's been a skill for me really to be able to connect to the person in front of me. So I think that comes through whenever I speak, when I do my discussion. So when the person's there in front of me, then I'm completely transformed. I'm not the kind who can sit behind the scenes and do work, but with people, it's always a people. It's always a person, the human being in front of me who's made a lot of difference. And so it's never been looked like a job. It's always been like, a series of things to be done. It's never sounded very stressful. Or a lot of people ask me, don't you feel burdened by people coming and talking to you about things? No, it's you're a different perspective. You offer a perspective, but you're not you're not a person in power. That person ultimately has the solution within. All you have to do is facilitate that journey. So when you see it that way, then you just feel blessed that you're able to be with that person that journey. So that's not a problem at all. And yeah, it's always the person, whether it's a child or an adult or man, woman, whatever. So it doesn't matter.
Okay, that's so beautiful. Okay, so before I part ways with you, because we have to, of course, come to an end of the podcast.
Yes,
I
of
have
course.
had a beautiful conversation with you. So, reaching to the end of the podcast, before I part ways with you virtually, do you have anything to say before parting ways with our listeners to inspire them?
Yes, like I keep saying, don't look at your age, don't look at your background. Your future is not your past. So dare to dream and go beyond. Thank you.
Wow, lovely. Okay, so what's the moral of this story? The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new lands but in seeking new eyes. As she said, forget about your age and keep doing what you love because life is something that you need to enjoy. If it is meant for you, you should go for it and just enjoy whatever you have been doing so far, and things will go, things will work on its own. On that note, I would like to end this episode of The Changemakers of Mentogram. Stay tuned for more such inspiring stories. Until the next episode, I am your host, Pratiksha.